Hello and welcome to Global Eye from the BBC World Service. I'm Divya Arya reporting for the BBC from India, joining you from Indian-administered Kashmir, a region known for its outstanding natural beauty, but where dozens were killed on both sides when the country came to the brink of a full-blown war with its neighbour Pakistan a few months ago. A truce was eventually brokered, but the hostilities stayed, seeping now onto the cricket pitch. I'll explain how. BBC Eye investigates the Indian pharma firm that has been fueling West Africa's opioid crisis.
This is very uncomfortable.
And we'll hear from Nobel Prize winner Malala Yousafzai about her fight for girls' rights around the world.
It's about advocating for a safer future for children. It's about every girl having the right to school.
I was born in India and I've grown up listening to passionate accounts of love and hate with our neighbour Pakistan. Both countries were one to begin with a shared language, food, culture and tradition. But in 1947, when the struggle for independence was at its peak and Britain had to agree to end its 150-year-long colonial rule, it divided the country. Unable to contain religious tensions, it carved out Muslim-majority areas out of India into a new country called Pakistan, leaving Hindu-majority areas in India. It was a bloody partition, polarized by religion, neighbor turned on neighbor, and brutal atrocities were committed. An estimated 1 million died. In one of the largest mass migrations in the world's history, 15 million were displaced as many Muslims fled to Pakistan, and Hindus and Sikhs headed in the opposite direction. But it didn't end there. This is the Hazrat Bal Shrine, a sacred Muslim landmark and mosque and a revered pilgrimage site for thousands of people each year. Kashmir is the only Muslim-majority region that lies within India and remains contested between the two countries. Both sides administer it in part but claim it in full. Though pilgrims and tourists both flock to Kashmir, it remains one of the most militarized zones in the world. It's hard to miss the presence of security forces here that India says are necessary as it accuses Pakistan of backing militants in Indian-administered Kashmir, a charge its neighbour denies. Over almost 8 decades, there have been numerous bursts of fighting, tens of thousands of deaths. But there has never been an agreed border in Kashmir. India and Pakistan have fought 2 wars over this Himalayan region. And after years of relative calm, came to the brink of another just a few months ago. In April 2025, militants killed 26 people in an attack on tourists in the resort town of Pahalgam, 50 miles east of here. The area where the attack happened remains closed off by security forces. It was the deadliest attack on civilians in 2 decades. Filmed by unsuspecting tourists taking selfies and videos, it enraged people and tensions flared amongst the nuclear-armed neighbors. India blamed the attack on Pakistan and responded with airstrikes 2 weeks later, in what it said was a bid to dismantle insurgent strongholds in Pakistan-administered Kashmir and Pakistan itself. Pakistan denied any role and retaliated with missiles, drones and fighter jets. Airports and train stations were shut and journalists like me had to make our way from Delhi over 18-hour-long road journeys to get to Srinagar here and to border areas. We were carrying our flak jackets and helmets with us, but this clash was different. This was the first time high-tech jets, missiles and drones were being used. The administration would impose blackouts at night and we would spend hours hiding, listening to the sound of shelling and mortar bursts around and above us. I met many who have been repeatedly caught up in the deadly attacks between India and Pakistan in this region over the decades, losing family, friends and homes in the flare-ups. And one story that really broke my heart was of 12-year-old twins whose family had recently moved to live closer to their school in a border town. But that area was targeted by shelling, and as they tried to flee, the children were killed. A truce was reached between the two countries. Life has limped back to normal here, a region which has seen many flare-ups over the years. But tourism the mainstay of Kashmir's economy has been badly hit. The confrontation between the two countries was even felt on the cricket pitch when India and Pakistan faced each other at the Asia Cup in September. India's cricketers refused to shake hands with Pakistan in that first tournament since the conflict. No handshake at the time of toss between the captains either. The strained politics between the countries has meant that matches between the cricket-crazy countries are organized in neutral locations and are highly charged spectacles. So this was not unexpected, but it marked a new low. There were gestures made on the field, words spoken at post-match press conferences. And after India defeated Pakistan in a cliffhanger final match, it refused to accept the winner's trophy from Asian Cricket Council President, who is also the chairman of the Pakistan Cricket Board. Opinions on cricket, though, remain divided. While some feel a symbolic point needed to be scored, others feel that politics should not negate sporting spirit. For those living here in Kashmir, it was an unsettling reminder of the volatile relationship between two nuclear-armed neighbors and the cost any flare-up could have on their lives. Now, a few months ago, the BBC I-Team went undercover to expose a Mumbai-based pharmaceutical company manufacturing unlicensed addictive opioids and exporting them illegally to West Africa, where they have been driving a major public health crisis. Here's more from Surabhi Tandon.
Illegal, addictive opioids are flooding the streets of West Africa, destroying thousands of lives and fueling a public health crisis. It's happening in Côte d'Ivoire, in Ghana, in Nigeria. But where are these pills coming from?
5 million tablets.
How are they getting into West Africa?
I think this is wickedness.
And who are the people making a killing from them?
This is a very untrue father thing. But now let this be peace.
I'm on my way to the Nigerian Drugs Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA. Their checkpoints have become a common sight on the streets of Lagos. In 2023, they seized opioids worth more than $100 million.
This year, all this is 225 tramadol,
Which is illegal.
which is illegal.
Tramadol is a catch-all name to describe the range of opioids used as street drugs. It's estimated more than 4 million people in Nigeria are misusing some form of opioid.
We're having a problem coming in from another country. It has become a big menace in Nigeria,
And which country is that?
India.
No. In 2018, the government banned the sale of tramadol without prescription and cracked down on the import of illegal opioids. Since then, more and more are being smuggled across the borders.
These shipments came in through Ghana, through the borders. They have been tracking him for 5 months.
Would you say that the route between Ghana and Nigeria is becoming more popular in the last year or so?
Definitely, it is.
Tamale in northern Ghana has been hit hard by a recent rise in opioid use. Journalist Yaya Masahudu grew up here.
These drugs are destroying families, destroying young men and women with potential who otherwise would have been able to help in developing this country.
It's got so bad, locals have set up their own task force to track down the opioid dealers.
I'm Zaki. And this is Chairman Jamal, Operation Leader.
A tip-off has led them to one of the poorest neighborhoods in Tamale.
They'll be raiding the place to see if they can get some of the drugs. What is happening right now is the task force is here to arrest the drug dealers. This is what they found here with just one raid. Yeah. This is what happens almost on a daily basis.
So turuni ma on daraka tadrib dala tarab. So kante ba marsa manin nanu dulu ko nom la. So nom ulang kala sar ko min nom.
An yurlama afan go kanja de pulu.
Ne vale maybe Niger ne vale hakat ko min ma Niger ka kuyer pension ne vale ni ble yalla.
Tumda.
These opioids are highly addictive. Some take them as painkillers or to help them get through hard physical work. But many use them simply to get high. They can cause breathing problems and seizures. Overdosing can kill.
You know this medicine. So who is your supplier? You don't know the supplier. You see how you disgrace yourself to this low. Look at kids are watching you.
The man in yellow is just a small-time dealer. But who is at the top of this chain? These packets are all we have to go on. But they do offer some clues.
Hi, it's Ravi.
Hi, Aya. Good to see you.
Did you get the photos I sent you from the raid the task force did the other day?
Yeah, I have them pulled up on my computer now.
The product is called Tafrodol. The Ghanaian FDA have confirmed to me the product is illegal in Ghana.
Then I can also see that it says made in India. And if I zoom into the corner, there's a logo with an A and a leaf.
It's important to look into that and to find out who is responsible for bringing the product into West Africa. The task force is trying to catch the traders and smugglers, but it's the source that needs to be stopped.
So let me start there and I'll get back to you when I have more information. We know the drugs are made in India. Now we need to find out who is making them. When I put Tafrodol into a search engine, the top results shows that the brand name Tafrodol is registered to a company called Aveo Pharmaceuticals. When I look for Aveo Pharmaceuticals, their official website shows up, which actually details their products and manufacturing practices. It looks like a legitimate company, but it's the logo that really catches my attention. I found teenagers in Côte d'Ivoire are mixing Tafrodol with an alcoholic drink called vodka. And there it is, the same logo. Aveo Pharmaceuticals. It's not just Côte d'Ivoire. Even in Ghana, I found reports of Tafrodol being seized by the police. When I zoom in, there is an A which looks like the A from Aveo. In the same seizure is another product, Tima King. In the corner of that box, the same logo, Aveo Pharmaceuticals. We also send out researchers in Nigeria to see if they could find products with the Aveo logo on them. And sure enough, they came back to us with Tafrodol XX. We know the name of the company. Now we need to find the people at the top. An undercover operative agreed to go to Aveo's factory, posing as a businessman looking to supply opioids to Nigeria.
We're here to see Mr. Sharma. Thank you. So nice to see you.
This is one of the directors of Aveo and the boss of this factory, Vinod Sharma. He takes them on a tour of the factory.
You came across like a shrewd businessman. He actually showed us that the factory is certified by the World Health Organization. That cemented the impression of the world-class standard. This before
Yes.
you guys are doing really massive operation.
5 million tablets.
Back at Sharma's office, it's time to talk business.
This is sample. Pattern, capsule, tablet, everything is.
The packet of Tafrodol is instantly recognizable. It's the same brand found on the streets in Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire.
Children love this because it's stronger than Tramadol.
This is Super Royal. It looks just like the drugs found in Lagos. This is Tima King, the same product seized by the Ghanaian police in 2024. Vinod Sharma displays many more products that look remarkably similar to those found by authorities across West Africa.
This is very powerful. Capsule, tablet is very powerful compared to the capsule. But red is very different. Double red. Double power.
Told me about how they came up with the opioids that they make as a reaction to government crackdown on Tramadol, which they used to also make. They also had a clear understanding of the global shipping business, the logistics of the operation.
By air is not possible nowadays because government is looking very strictly. And you can supply by the sea, but on another port, not Lagos, another Ghana and other. Otherwise, police can arrest, capture the container.
Clearly, he knew that what he was producing was illegal, but the fact that he was willing to talk about producing the opioids for me, and branding the opioids for me, and shipping the opioids, to West Africa for me. All of that spoke to a businessman who was willing to take a lot of risk.
I can clear from our custom, means India. You can clear from your side. Every client working like this.
Sharma doesn't flinch when the team tells him who they're planning to sell the opioids to.
Do you have local market in the Nigeria? We can supply these materials.
So we do. And our plan is to sell to young people. 16, 17 year olds, we find out a whole lot of products, right? And like you said earlier on, the product, Tafrodol, has really replaced Tramadol in the market.
This item is Tafrodol is a painkiller. But suppose you can use the 2 or 3 tablets in the one time, you can like this relax.
This is what the kids like. That's what they like. Gives them that high.
High.
High means high.
This is very harmful for the health. But
Very harmful.
But customer cannot understand that. He wants relax.
He wants to relax. Yeah.
Any medicine can misuse. This is very harmful for the body. But nowadays this is a business.
Nigerian journalists have been reporting on this opioid crisis for more than 20 years. Finally, I was face to face, not with some local dealer or transnational smuggler, but actually one of the men at the root of Africa's opioid crisis.
Catching market, slowly.
Okay. One of the men who actually makes this opioid and ships it into our countries by the container load. It's depressing watching someone who produces these opioids speaking about it and describing it simply as business.
In India, any drug made only for export must comply with the requirements of the importing country. Ghana's drug authorities told us this product doesn't meet their import requirements. By shipping Tafrodol to Ghana, AVO is breaking Indian law. Now we know who's making the drug, but how is it getting into Ghana?
Oh, this is it. You can see Samos Pharma written.
We found evidence that a company in the capital, Accra, has handled millions of the pills.
I'm not very sure that these guys are going to be friendly and whether they will allow us to film.
This is the evidence that led us to Samos Pharma. Export data showing that Samos has imported millions of opioid pills from India through Ghanaian ports by a company called Westfin International. Looking into Westfin, we found the board of directors. Among them, a familiar name, Vinod Sharma. In Tamale, it's left for groups like the Citizens Task Force to tackle the opioid crisis. More of Vinod Sharma's Tafradol. That evening, they gather in a local park to burn the drugs. This task force, in one small corner of West Africa, is doing all they can. But as these drugs burn, production lines in India are churning out millions more. And the people who make them are getting rich on the profits of other people's misery.
Since we first broadcast that report, the Indian government has banned the sale and production of those two opioids in combination. And the government of Ghana has launched an investigation into the opioid crisis in the country. Now, a few hundred miles from here is the city of Kabul in Afghanistan, where in recent days, the BBC's Afghan service has been trying to find ways to continue to reach its audiences in the country after a 48-hour internet blackout by the Taliban government cut the country off from the rest of the world. The United Nations mission in Afghanistan said it was particularly worried about the effect of the outage on women and girls who are already very isolated in the country. Here's Sadaf Khayasi from the BBC's Afghan service to explain how their teams continue to reach their audiences in desperate need.
BBC radio is the only radio for now in Afghanistan because the other radio stations are banned by the Taliban.
So no back no?
No goodbye. I'm doing bulletins and also phone-in programs. The situation was quite tense, not only for those living inside Afghanistan, even for us as the team working on that day. We were all affected. We were all emotionally attached. That was the moment that we got the idea that after this, that we are running our phone-in program, so let's just be the bridge as they are calling on us.
من ولایت هرات هستم. من 3 روز است که نتونستم با فامیلم تماس بگیرم. من 3 روز است که صدای مادر من نشنیدم. من هر شب که میخواستم بخوابم مادرم حتما باید دمرای صحبت میکردم. بدون از اون مادرم آرامش نداشت. من میفهمم که میلیون ها مادر پدر همین احساس دارن و اونا فعلا آرامش ندارن.
I just had a look around. Everybody was crying around me. The way they were trying to deliver their messages, they were reminding me of my parents living inside the country. I was not able to deliver my message either. So I was seeing myself, I was feeling them. But as BBC says, audiences first. So for me, it was really important to be the bridge in convey their messages. So yeah, I would describe it tough and emotional.
She's now one of the most famous human rights campaigners in the world. A woman who experienced the brutality of Taliban firsthand when she was shot in the head in Pakistan as an 11-year-old schoolgirl. Almost a decade on, and Malala Yousafzai's foundation now is a global force for the rights of girls. Most recently working in Nigeria, where in some states, more than half of the girls are not in school. Madina Maishanu sat down with Malala in the capital, Abuja.
You've recently written a new book which is yet to be released. It's called Finding My Way.
And that title just seems very personal. What does it mean to you?
Yes, this is the most personal reflections I have ever shared before. And I was still in an induced coma in hospital when the world was defining me as this brave, courageous young activist. But I was still 15 years old and I did not know who I was. So I have openly shared about my life since then. I talk about my school years, which were lonely. I talk about my college life, where I decided to become more of a reckless student. I talk about friendships and love life, and at the same time mental health, because that is something that affected me many, many years later after the attack.
Would you say that subsequently fame also impacted your childhood?
I think it was a bit of everything. At 15, when I was recovered from the attack, I started school in the UK in a completely new country. I actually really struggled to make friends. By the end of my school time, I just had made one friend. So when I was about to join university, I had one mission, and that was to make as many friends as I could, because friends also help you grow as a person. It is part of the emotional growth, from handling essay crisis to just have moments of laughter, to also being there with each other when we have gone through tough moments.
But why did you struggle to make friends? Was it the fame?
I think it's because people think that they know you, they have heard about you on TV, so they have this fixed image of you, and just it was this gap of having a normal conversation that I couldn't get, because like in Pakistan, of course I was, a normal girl. I was mischievous sometimes. I had a lot of friends. I loved to talk about anything. And what I wanted was that you can be an activist, but you could also be yourself.
So would you personally consider yourself as an activist or a politician?
I think for me, like it's about advocating for a safer future for children. It's about every girl having the right to school, and that is the mission of my life. But if you look at the world, and if there's like a war going on, if there's conflict, if there's a genocide going on, like millions of children lose their future, and we cannot look away from that. The change that we want to bring will not become a reality if we look away from the catastrophe, from the disasters that are happening right now.
Everything you've been through, your journey when you were shot, and the Malala of today, do you think it's all worth it?
This is a tough question to address, because I usually would say that I wish I was in the old life. I wish I could have continued my life in Pakistan. But when I think about how things took a turn, and now that I'm able to lead a movement for girls' education, and we are able to work together with incredible partners like here in Nigeria, whatever the circumstances, this pathway is rewarding, and I do not want to look back. I do not want to change it for a second, because of the change that today we can make for girls.
Thank you so much, Malala.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me in Kashmir. We want to hear your feedback about Global Eye, so let us know on social media. Next week, we'll be reporting from Lebanon. Goodbye.